Welcome to the QCA Wrestle Podcast with Rob Hill and Jay Zyman. Our guest today is Drew Kelly. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show. We are here with Coach Drew Kelly from North Scott. Coach Kelly was a three-time Iowa High School state champion for Charles City High School, was an NCAA qualifier at UNI, and has been at North Scott as the head coach since 2013. North Scott, I would call perennial powerhouse. You guys are always tough. I've always admired the program. So, Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's great you guys are doing this and promoting wrestling in our area, and thanks for having me on.
Hey, Coach. Geez, I'm here. Really appreciate you being on here. Tell us, we're going through some crazy times right now. How are you and your family doing, and how are you guys adapting at this point in time?
You know, it's been interesting. It's been good to really kind of reconnect with your family, and you know, my wife and I kind of looked at what our spring schedule was going to be like with softball for my daughter and baseball kicking off, and you know, for a lot of families, it's just extremely hectic time, and it's been nice to kind of take a step back and spend some time with the family, and you know, do what we can from a school standpoint and enjoy each other and have some fun in the best way we can. So a lot of people have challenges, and you know, hopefully the weather can cooperate and we can get back outside a little bit. But you know, it's a different time, and we're just trying to make the most of it.
How old are the kids, Coach?
My oldest son, Kate, is 11. My daughter is 9, and my youngest son is 5. So it can be wild in the house at times for sure, but we have a lot of fun and try to keep it light.
Awesome. Hey, could you tell us a little bit about your wrestling background and kind of like how at the beginning, how were you introduced to the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I remember going to some youth practices. Not a ton. I didn't start out like in preschool or kindergarten or anything. It was probably second or third grade. I went to some of those introductory practices, and then really probably third and fourth grade, I started doing a few more tournaments. And then really fourth grade, I think, is when things started picking up. My elementary school wasn't far from our junior high, and I'd walk up there every day after school and work out with junior high kids. We had a number by Coach Gordy Kettleson, and you know, would work out with those guys. And then like a lot of these towns, we had kids and dads and people that supported it. We continued wrestling on a lot of those weekends. And so I'd say from probably fourth grade on, things really kind of picked up. I really enjoyed the sport, wrestled quite a few more tournaments on the weekends, and then just kind of progressed from there. So, you know, I remember really probably 6th, 7th, 8th grade years, you know, wanting to wrestle on the weekends and wanting to wrestle these tournaments, and always have the support from home to really do that. And obviously Coach Kettleson was very influential in my life from you know, fourth grade through junior high. And then you know, my freshman year was the first year Dave Williams took over at Charles City. Coach Pavlovich was there for a long time, and you know, Dave was an unbelievable guy. He's a UNI guy. He coached at Fort Madison before that, and you know, kind of sparked some things there, and really fortunate to have him, as well as I don't know if Coach Krieger, who took over at Denver, was in the room at that point in time. Coach Stahl Smith, Coach Wedekind. We had some really good guys. Coach Lappy, who was at Indianola, he's kind of behind the scenes guy. We just had a lot of really good people around our high school program at that time, and that really helped me along. And so just kind of as I progressed into high school, you know, just really had a love for the sport, and had some success along the way. And you know, it's kind of where I started out. I mean, it's not like I was wrestling from day one with my siblings and all the way through. It was, you know, it's kind of a slow build, and had a lot of great people along with me.
Now you're more than a one-trick pony too. I mean, you're very good in football, track, baseball as well, correct?
Yeah, as a sport athlete, and had really good success in all four sports, and really enjoyed all four. And maybe a little bit different from some of the situations now for our kids. I mean, I never really felt pressure to focus in on one or two here and there, and it was kind of a mentality back then. You had a group of buddies, and maybe it was more of a smaller community in Charles City where it was just kind of what's the next thing we're going to do, and go compete together. And we just had a lot of fun doing it. And like I said, I had awesome coaches and awesome peers that I competed with along the way, and so really enjoyed every sport and had success doing it, and was very fortunate that was the situation I was in.
So then, Coach, you made your transition from high school wrestling, multi-time state champion, into college at UNI. I see you're sporting the hat today too. That's awesome.
Always be repping, man.
What was the biggest transition you had to make as a student athlete, going from being an elite athlete at the high school level, going into college where there was just a room full of hammers?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a couple of things, obviously you're getting older and looking back, but from a wrestling standpoint, obviously there's a big transition to mat wrestling, and you've got guys that are going to ride you, and they're extremely tough on top. So, getting better on the mat from that standpoint was huge, obviously with the college style, but then managing my weight was a big thing too. In high school, I watched my weight here and there, but I wrestled 52 as a junior and 160 as a senior, and then my first 3 years I wrestled 157, and it, I probably could have done some things a little bit better along the way, and sometimes, guys, you learn things the hard way at times, and learn some hard lessons with that, but obviously figured that out as I went. And then, I think especially my redshirt year, learned some hard lessons too, academically and socially, and making that adjustment to maturing a little bit, as a young adult. So, that's that process a lot of guys go through. Looking back, I think I could have done some things better, obviously, but you're out on your own, in that college world, and you got to manage a lot of aspects of your life. So, it kind of touched on a lot of points there, but again, had a lot of good people around me. We had some unbelievable people at UNI that are still my lifelong friends, and you make the adjustment and move on, but those are some of the areas in my life that I maybe wasn't great at starting out, that you make some improvements and you adjust moving forward. So I think I can probably touch on a few more things to your question there, but it's for a lot of kids that's a big adjustment period, and those are some areas I need to work on.
Sure, definitely big time. Big adjustment. I'm nervous. My son's a sophomore, and it's a couple of years away, thankfully, but I'm looking at it like some of the stuff he does around the house. I'm like, this kid's going to be going out into the world in 2 years. Like, man, he's got a lot to learn still. But,
it's, that's why, as a high school coach, you see it too. And it's not just coaching wrestling with the kids too, man. That's part of them. You're trying to help them become better people and be ready for what the world has to offer. And it can be tough at times. So, they're good kids, man. There's got a lot of good kids, and they seem to make the adjustment, especially having participated in a sport like wrestling. They've seen that adversity and they're ready for it. So
sure, yeah. So, Coach, if you could think back on your career, who's the toughest opponent you had?
I was kind of thinking about this, and obviously wrestling in college, you wrestled a ton of tough guys, and I was kind of rolling back over some of the matches. And I think, in my career, probably my toughest match, and maybe not from an opponent standpoint, although he's a pretty tough opponent, was probably my senior year state finals. Wrestled Kenyatta Carter, and he was obviously a great competitor, but and I think this kind of goes into some of the things that, you know, we try to talk to our athletes about, but obviously after winning it twice, it's your senior year. I just put a lot of pressure on myself to really finish the deal, and it was one of those where it was probably more of a relief when it was over after my senior year, and you know, it was one of those things where, you know, like we talked with our guys about, you know, I didn't want there to be any excuses, so it was, you know, staying after the mornings, the strength training, and it was an extreme focus during that year just to kind of finish the deal. And obviously he was a great competitor as well, but as far as a match, the build up and kind of what I had and what I put on myself, that was one of my tougher matches, just because, you know, you want to go out the right way. So obviously wrestled some hammers and didn't always come out on top in college and then in high school too. But that's one that kind of sticks out just after that match, and it's being your last year, that just kind of the emotion that goes along with that.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned earlier you had a great support system, especially growing up through high school, going into your college years. Who do you see as one of your biggest influences on your wrestling life or career, and why?
You know, I've had some great coaches when I was a competitor, and then I've been fortunate to have some great people that I've got to coach with throughout my coaching career that led me to this point. But as far as in overall impact, it'd be my dad. Because really, we thought about a lot of people the last couple of days, and you know, my dad is one where, you know, never really put any pressure on me in any sport. My value as his son wasn't tied to anything I did on the mat or the field or anything like that. And it was always, you know, did you wrestle hard? Did you play hard? You know, did you learn something? That was the mentality we took, and it was moving forward. And you know, it was never felt like I had to go to a tournament. You know, this was all something that I wanted. He was there to support me, and obviously he still does. So a lot of people get turned off by their support system, whatever that may be. You've seen a lot as a college kid refereeing weekend tournaments, as somebody that's been to those tournaments and you coach. You see a lot of the negative that can be associated with our sport, and really, you know, I never had any of that. So for me, and just as a person too, my dad, I love my dad. He's a great man, and so how he parented me growing up as somebody involved with youth sports, and just as the role model he is, that's somebody that has shaped my life immensely, and very fortunate to have somebody like that in my corner and supporting me along that journey.
That's great. That's great. Switching gears just a little bit, Coach. So this year, North Scott, super, you know, I'd say really impressive season, MAC champs, you know, I'd say overall a really good year for you. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about this past season, and then kind of what you're thinking, what your outlook is going into this next season as well.
Yeah, really looking back on the season, our guys, they had an incredible year. We started out having 6 guys in our lineup that it was their first year on varsity, and we had some returners and some seniors mixed in there, but a lot of unknowns. And you know, the way our schedule shapes up, I think we've got one of the toughest schedules in the state, you know, and but that really benefits us, and our guys, man, they believe in each other, they train hard, and that, you know, people talk about all the time, man, it's just one week to the next, can we get better? Can we get better every day? And they did that, you know. And you know, I don't think our guys will tell you they know what I think about rankings. You know, don't look at, I don't get caught up, and I don't really care what people think. But I don't know that we were even a ranked team until January, and but our schedule helped us feel that we competed well, young. We had some injuries on some football guys that we got back about mid-year. We went out to the Council Bluffs Classic, and our guys, again, we're seeing the best competition around. And then, obviously, kind of one of our big tournaments, year in and year out, it's, the Battle of Waterloo for us is, we've been somewhat inconsistent, but we went up there and wrestled extremely well, beat a couple of ranked teams in 3A, and that kind of all of a sudden people are looking, hey, what's going on there? So kind of a steady build all year long with our guys. Just really proud of the way they competed. And then, we had, early January, I've been having some weather issues lately, but we went up to the Clash before that hit, and I think we finished 8th overall in one of the toughest tournaments around, and wrestled, ended up getting in the finals of our pool, and just saw some great competition. So that was a huge kind of springboard into our break. And then, we came out, and the guys, they kept working, and I think we still, even going in, it's, I'm never going to complain about, kind of being the underdog guys, but it's like they've been seeing the best and holding their own, and I think we still went into MAC, it's as underdogs, and had one of the better days we've had in a long time. Ended up with 7 MAC champs, and won the MAC tournament. I think, I didn't even realize it was, I think, a third time in 4 years we won the MAC, and just really proud of the guys. And then, had a really, it was kind of one of those weird districts we tied in up north with West Dubuque and Linn-Mar, and Linn-Mar ended up being, they were a hammer team, and it was a tough district, and qualified 7 guys, and had a good day. And then, it's duels is whatever your take is on that. It's important to our guys and our program. It's the way we're kind of built, and that was probably a huge way to start the week for us, going down and beating Bettendorf first round in duels, kind of avenging a loss to them earlier in the year. And we had a couple seniors that just because of weights and the way matches went, ended up not qualifying this year, but beat a couple state qualifiers on their side, and just really proud of the way we competed with that. And then so finishing 4th with duels is a great way to start the week. And obviously the individual tournament's such a grind, and you love all the matches that go your way, but we lost some tough ones there, but finishing with 4 place winners out of 7 guys, and a couple of those guys losing blood round matches where they're right there, so coming in, I say at the start of the year, really had kind of no idea how this team would take shape. We had some solid core, but a bunch of new guys, and just looking back, really proud of what they did this year. So got some solid guys back, some place winner guys, high end guys, and I think we ended the year with 53 guys in the room. We had a big freshman class. We had a lot of competition at each weight. So, it's one of those where, we try not to ever have one of those dips in our years. It's just, the guys know what the standard is, and they've seen these high-end guys and these seniors that have been such great leaders for us, how they train, how they work, and then, a lot of guys that are doing those same things, ready to step in. So, next year it's going to be another adventure. We're going to have a lot of new guys in the lineup, but really love how the guys trained this year that weren't in there, and what next year's going to bring.
Coach, with the current quarantine situation, a lot of us aren't able to get into wrestling rooms, gyms, workout rooms. What are you advising your wrestlers or the Quad City area wrestlers to do to continue improving our area in wrestling?
It's tough. same thing we're telling our students right now and everything. It's you know, you got to do the best you can with what you got, and you know, it's one of those, man. I don't like it, but I started running a lot more lately. So, you know, it's what you got. Get outside, get on a treadmill, get if you got some strength training equipment or makeshift or whatever, man. You guys, these guys know how to train. These guys have been through our practices. You know, I'm a strength training teacher at the high school, man. They know what we expect and what high level training looks like. So, you know, they can be doing all of those cardio and strength training things to the best of their ability, and you know, some wrestling related skills as is. But you know, I think one of the overlooked things maybe is just maybe having a little reflection on maybe, you know, the past year, you as a person, maybe your lifestyle, maybe evaluating just your wrestling. You know, we're really hammering down on some areas you can improve on. So there's definitely things to do. It looks a lot different than what we would be doing right now. You know, it's our guys. We have a freestyle club running out of our room, and a lot of guys that are competing and training, and it's going to be different, man. It's a weird time. I just met with our coaches last week. You know, we've got a pretty standard off-season program in the summer, and now it's, you know, what is that really going to look like? I mean, if they come back and cancel school for the rest of the year, what are we going to be allowed to do really in June? You know, I don't know that school districts are going to be comfortable allowing much in June, you know. So it's a lot of wait and see. We're trying to get a best game plan we can for the summer, but it's definitely a weird time. So I think everybody's got different resources, and just do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah. Hey, one thing, you kind of touched on this a little bit when you mentioned how tough of a schedule you have, and I agree. You guys, week after week, you're wrestling against the toughest guys in the state, I'd say. How do you develop your team to make them mentally tough?
You know, for us, it might be a little different than some people, but it's such a team first mentality, and even though we have a lot of guys, it's such a close-knit group. And so for us, we try to do as much as we can together. And that starts with morning workouts. We don't, you know, even with a lot of guys in our room, we don't split workouts. You know, everybody's in there, everybody's going through the grind at the same time. And you know, and even our camps, you know, a lot of them, most of them are team camps, where they have that team component and team building aspect. And, you know, that's one of those things we talk about. We usually end up at Luther camp is our kind of our last team camp. And that's one of those where throughout the spring and summer, that's kind of at that culmination where you have some people really stepping up in those leadership roles. So, you know, that's the kind of the process that takes place every year throughout the spring and summer. But, you know, in season, we bring our guys in the morning, and we've got a great support system where when they're done, they know they've got a shower, and then we provide breakfast for them. So when they get done, they all eat together before they go to class. And you know, it's just, you know, we've got a team lifting component where, hey man, our guys know this is the time we're lifting as a team. So for us, we're doing most of our training and most of our, just as much as we can together. So I think the toughness comes from the power of that group, and that knowing, man, we went through the same thing together, and we're busting our butt, and you guys well know it's not easy, and training's tough, and it's going to challenge you. But I think that's what brings, you know, our groups closer together, and that's what makes this tough to beat. You know, you're wrestling for yourself, but not only yourself. You've got all these guys behind you, and you're wrestling for your team as well. And so, you know, for us too, that's what makes, you know, we're not in a ton of dual tournaments, but our guys really love those, because it's just they feed off each other and they get going. So it's a special group. It's a special sport, and our guys, it's pretty tight. So that's some of the things that we do to build that.
Coach, you had mentioned earlier about Freco. You know, typically you're going full throttle right now, training for that season. How do you feel about your kids doing off-season wrestling with that? And part two of the question, I mean, unique year again, you know, and I'm having the same question, you know, Rob and I have debated with our own boys. Do you continue training on freestyle Greco, or do you just say, let's cut our losses, let's get ready for the next folk style?
You know, I think part of it is we're going to have to wait and see when things kind of resume back to kind of normal activities. And we've got some guys that'll be, you know, training to wrestle in Fargo. So I think we're going to kind of take it on an individual basis with those guys. But, you know, it's kind of in a wait and see pattern right now. You know, it's, you know, you don't know what really is going to happen. So, but for us, you know, we encourage off-season wrestling. Biggest thing is my perspective is a little bit different than maybe just a wrestling guy. Obviously, talked about four-sport athlete. You know, I want our guys competing. You know, and some of those guys, and even our guys that are really focused on wrestling, we build in those times where I want you off the mat, get out of the room for a while, go enjoy the summer, be a kid, and but. You know, if you want to be in there and you're not doing anything else, man, these are the times we offer, and we're going to encourage them to be in there. If you're out for a spring sport or summer sport, we cater to our times. So if you're able to, you know, come in there, and it doesn't have to be live. You know, you can, if you wanted to, we've had guys just come in and sit and watch before, but being in there, being a part of it. So I encourage them to compete in other sports. We're going to make it convenient for them to get in there when they can, and we're going to provide them all the opportunities that they need as best we can out of our facility. And then, you know, for camps, you know, provide those opportunities for them too. So, yeah, right now it'll be interesting. I just really don't know. We've been kind of, like I said, talking as coaches, and when things get better, we'll make the best plan for them and move forward. But you know, a lot of our guys are football guys too. So whenever that does happen, you know, we'll see what we can do, and then gear up for fall, I guess.
Sure. Yep. I think it may have been just this morning. I can't remember, but Jay and I were talking about when do you decide, okay, freestyle and Greco is not going to happen. And to me, it's like, if they end up having Fargo's in July, I'm like, my son wants to go. He'll be trying to go. Now, if they bump it back to August or September when football's starting, which I don't think they'll do, then it's like, okay, maybe now we forget about freestyle and start thinking about folk style again. But
yeah,
that's sort of what I'm.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. I mean, it's hard when they start bumping it, like we were talking I'm trying to pin our AD down a little bit, and it's like, well, I might be able to shift some things, and it's really tough because you want your kids to be involved in other sports, and you start shifting things back, you know. You know, I don't want them to feel conflicted as, hey man, I want to try to be in here, but you're gearing up for an in-season sport, man. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So
yeah. So Coach, how has the sport of wrestling evolved or changed since you were a kid? What have you seen, you know, change over the years? You
know, I think these kids, I mean, honestly, these kids have access to all kinds of technique and content. It's crazy. I mean, the coverage is I think it's much improved. I do think, you know, I think there might be kids that are a little more comfortable scrambling a little bit, you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, you watch the state placing matches, state finals, college matches. I mean, it's still rock solid wrestling. Your bread and butter. I mean, you know, the guys are hitting and winning big matches. So, you know, you can go back however long you want to. It's getting to a single leg and finishing, and you know, having good defense, maintaining position. I mean, these things are staples and are always going to be. That's how you're going to win those matches. But you know, I think there's been some huge improvements for our sport, and these kids today, man, if they want it, they've got all this access to knowledge and content at the fingertips. So, which is great, and as coaches, we do too. So, yeah, it's grown. I mean, I think you see kids doing things that are, you know, I never thought you'd see at the high school level. So, but at the end of the day, it's still solid wrestling is going to win matches. So.
Hey, I've got one we didn't have this on our plan, but I want to ask it. What do you think? Well, there's been a ton of growth in girls wrestling. How's that movement coming into North Scott? Do you guys have some girls coming out yet, or how's that? What's going on?
Huge. It's been huge. A year ago today, I had a meeting. Not today, but this spring, I had a couple meetings this spring, and then at the end of the school year, and kind of had some interest here and there. Start of the school year this past season in the fall, had another meeting, and then we started, and it's been huge. Had some good people involved with that. Ended up gaining girls throughout the season, and fortunately for me, being in the school district or being at the high school and strength training and being involved with other sports programs, I get talked to and build relationships with a lot of kids. So I'm always recruiting or encouraging them to be involved with things. And we ended up with about 22 girls at the end of the season on our team. And, with that, it came a lot of challenges that we worked through with uniforms and schedules and just the whole thing. So really great start for us. We've got some girls in our club. I think kind of our next push is, building that excitement at the junior high. And I think the foundation is pretty strong in North Scott for girls wrestling. So proud of them. We might have had 7 or 8 wrestle at the girls state tournament. So no place winners, but I think most of them won matches, and they had a great experience. So proud of our girls team. Brian Thomas, Andy Straley, Tony Yates are guys that helped along with that and coach those girls, and we're excited to keep that thing moving.
That's great. That's good.
So, Coach, next kind of a life lesson question we got next is a lot of people might not know, but your college career was cut a little short due to a freak injury. Didn't know if you'd talk a little bit about that, and then what kind of advice or words of wisdom can you give to these wrestlers of ours that have had their season cut short due to the coronavirus, whether it be, we just talked to Jay Schwarm the other day, and there's high school wrestlers, even our youth wrestlers. There's some of them that missed out on the state tournament. Is there any words of wisdom that you can give them, after years removed from the sport?
Yeah, I still remember going through that, and it was, we stopped. I think it was a day or two before we stopped and worked out, and kind of could just feel everything tense up, and it just ended up having a ruptured disc, and but for me, fortunately, I mean, obviously didn't end the career that I wanted. I wrestled 3 matches at nationals with that, and ended up having surgery the Sunday we got back, and I just remember kind of that realization that you're done as a competitor, and it was, I was tough, and it took a while, but most of the people that I value as coaches and people in my life that I've talked to, it's they talk about all these things, and the things we talk about with their guys that, it's just stuff you say. I'm like, dude, no, that's stuff that people live by. It's like, it's the decisions you make. You control those things, and it's kind of like one of those where this is where I'm at. This is not how things wanted to go, but what's the next best thing out there? What's the next best opportunity I have? And for some of these kids, it's going to be pursuing a college degree and getting a good job. For if you're fortunate enough to be able to go on and compete or have another season, like what's that next best thing that you can do? So making that decision, it's not always easy to wake up and have a positive attitude, but that's also a decision. And I think that's it. I mean, set some goals, man. What's the next thing I want to achieve? So it's tough as competitors, especially in our sport, but I think that's anybody that's an athlete and has been through that is going to have a lot of skills to persevere with these tough times. So it's hard to give a lot of advice to kids that are going through it right now, because that's what their focus is. But take a step back and get a big picture look at things. And like I said before, the guy I work with, we talk about it all the time. It's sports and these activities we're involved in are things we do. It's not who we are, and they've got big things ahead of them. So
I love that. Great answer.
Yeah, really good words of wisdom there, Coach. I appreciate it. Life's tough. Sometimes we get beat up and knocked down, and it's about getting back up and going after the next thing. I really like that message. A little more fun topic now. Let's go. We've got our OT sudden death questions here. A little more upbeat coming. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for them.
All right. First one, favorite wrestling movie?
Favorite wrestling movie? Well, I'm going to have to tell you this. You ever watched Competitor Supreme?
The Dan Gable?
Yes.
I haven't actually
This
seen
was like
I'm going to look it up tonight.
this is like one of these things that I get up like every morning. My dad woke me up, make breakfast, and I go down. I'd watch this movie. It's more of a Iowa Hawkeye highlight type of deal through a season, but I watched that thing about it. I just wore it out, man. And that's one of those. I can hear it right now. I can see Coach Gable. I can see these Hawkeyes wrestling, and it gets me fired up right now. So it's not really one of your typical movies, man, but it's one of those. I watched it every day for a long time, so that gets me going.
All right. Favorite superhero?
I honestly had to look these up, man. I'm not a big superhero guy, but I mean, how do you not go with Superman? I mean, he saves, he deals with crisis. I think he ends up getting a girl. I mean, well, it's a great story. You got to be Superman.
One of the best for sure. Hey, how about your favorite wrestling match? And let's make this a two-parter if you don't mind. Let's do your favorite of yours and then your favorite that you've seen.
That I've seen?
Yeah.
My favorite of mine was probably in high school. I don't know if it was the finals or not. I don't know if you remember Tyler Nix, some green, wrestled at Iowa. And we were, I think, juniors. And I remember coming out, and I tried a bad carry, got thrown in my back. I'm down 5-0, and end up just coming back, chipping away, and wrestling on my feet and getting takedowns. Ended up winning 15-13. And it was just one of those, looking back, like the stuff you tell your guys, like, matches happen. Bad things are going to happen in matches, but it's just, hey, on to the next move. I'm going to score more points. I'm going to give up some points, but I'm going to score more points. And, having the right mindset and having the right belief and competing like you can. It was one of those. And obviously, Tyler and I had grown up together, and you'd see him at youth tournaments along the way. And Tyler's a great kid, nice guy, friend. He was a friend, and it was a hell of a match. Those things are out the window when it's match time. And it was just one of those. It was memorable just because you're laying on your back in the first period thinking, oh man, this is not good, So that's one that sticks out. So
yeah, that's a great one. It's a good one. How about
one?
Yeah,
one that I was coaching. This is one, and I'm thinking back, but I think you get removed, you forget about these stories and these matches, but kind of going through some things with the downtime and kind of revisiting some old highlights and books and papers, and yes, Wyatt Murray. So he's up at Loris now. His junior year, and really it kind of goes back to his sophomore year. He had a heck of a finish. Ended up beating, I think, Tyler Clark in Clinton for third as an undersized heavyweight his sophomore year, and he'd never beaten Tyler Clark. And might have been Tyler Clark, I think. So then, had a good spring, good summer, and he comes in and having a nice season. And I think I think he might have been 0-3 against Rocky that year, and he ended up beating Rocky Lombardi in the semis, wrestled a great match, and kid was just on fire all state tournament. And I remember the finals, he had Ethan Anderson, who was going for his third state title, already committed to Okie State. And I just remember, man, like, outside of people in North Scott in our room, like, no, this was over. Like, this dude's getting his third state title. He's going to roll over this kid. And I even remember, too, we went to we always stay at that motel close to the arena. And so we went through the Grand March. And me and 220 were like, we're just going to go back to the motel and chill out until, it's time we want to come back and warm up and go through that. So I remember walking out and, like, going through and seeing some of North Scott fans, too. And people, obviously supporters are like, hey, great tournament, and he's wrestling real well. You think he's going to keep it close, you think it'd be a close match? And I'm just like thinking, no, we're going to try to go out there and beat this kid butt, Mm-hmm. And so we go back, and it's just, you're in the room watching the finals on the TV. It's just kind of weird. But trying to make him lay down and play cards. I remember looking at Coach Ambrose was there with me, and I'm just like, man, there's nobody in this town right now that thinks this dude's got a shot. And went over there, and I just remember the match starting out for 220. It was like it's going to be right up there as far as one of the best matches in state tournament in a long time. It was just nonstop action, and Wyatt had some technique for 220, but I mean, just a goer, just a brawler, huge heart. And I don't remember if takedowns were exchanged, but I just remember Anderson hit this sag headlock, and Wyatt's head just went boom right on the mat. And I'm like thinking, this dude just got knocked out. And fights off his back. I think it was 6-6 at one point. It's just, I don't even remember the scoring. It was just such a high action-paced match. And as third period, 10-10. It's still on the attack, and you can just kind of see it coming, man. Gets a takedown at the end to win 12-10. And it's kind of one of those where, like, as coaches, you believe it's going to happen. Your guy's all in, but until it happens, man, and when it does, it's pretty special. And it doesn't always go your way, obviously, but that's just one of those where it was, you think it can happen, and when it does, it's just surreal. So I just end up, I found one of the picture from that year in the press, and it was a lot of great memories, and just one of those. And that was kind of, the start of, we've been pretty consistent year in and year out, and it's for him and guys in his class where, man, there's not anybody we need to be intimidated around here, around the state, and this is the standard that it's going to be. So a lot of credit to him and the guys that were in his grade and that came before. And that was one of those matches. Still get goosebumps talking about it, and it's. I got some videos on my phone, short clips. You got people back in Eldridge that they're watching it on TV and they're videoing it at the end, and they're just going nuts. And so you got people that send you some of that. You'll watch every now and again. It kind of gets you fired up, but just a special match.
That's so awesome. So I'm going to throw a shout out really quick so Josh Swafford runs the Pin Doctors site, and he's been posting a ton of matches. Josh, if you can hear me, Wyatt, Ethan Anderson, get it up there, man. I got to see it.
That was unreal.
Incredible family, and congratulations also to Wyatt again this year, qualifying for D3 Nationals. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. Favorite food, and while we're at it, with everything going on, who do we want to plug? Where do I need to go visit and have a good lunch down there if I come down to Eldridge or down your way?
My favorite food's chicken enchiladas. My mom's chicken enchiladas, but if you want, one of our favorite spots for Mexicans, Cabos. So you get on to Eldridge, you better go find Cabos and get in there. So.
All right.
Sounds good. Greatest U.S. Olympic wrestler?
You know what? I actually did a little research, and I thought I had my mind made up, but then, man, I've been back and forth. You know, it's hard not to go with Burroughs, but I think I got to go with John Smith on this. So it's, you know, you kind of forget some of these things as he's been coaching for so long. But, you know, I think it was 2 golds and 4 world golds and they were consecutive. And so just, you know, we've had some unbelievable Olympians, but for that stretch of time to be at the top of your game at that level, that's amazing. So, and obviously, as a coach, you know, you can argue almost even better. And then, you know, his coaching tree, there was just something on Twitter the other day where, you know, his wrestlers out in the college ranks coaching is pretty amazing. So he's a pretty special man in the sport.
All right. Next question tells me how bored you are. Have you watched the Tiger King?
I don't watch it. No. So I have not. You know, we're kind of competitive, and actually we dug the Wii out in our house. So we've been like Wii bowling and Wii golf and all that, man, getting fired up with each other. So no, it's on the list. I'm gonna have to do it. Between that and Ozark, I've heard it's pretty good. So.
Okay. Yeah, really good. Really good. What was the longest go you ever had in a practice? Who'd you wrestle and where was it?
Well, you didn't clarify practice before because I kind of forgot about that, but
that's fair. It doesn't have to be practice.
I'm going to have to say Cedar Falls, Iowa, Heston Johnson, who actually I think he was a college roommate of mine, and I think he just took over the Rolling Story job for wrestling. And I don't know how long the go was, but it was quite a while. But it just, you know, one of those start sparring a little bit and working on things, and next thing you know, you're sweaty and grass stained, and that's how it goes. So.
All right. Favorite vacation destination? Where are you going to be after this all said and done?
Well, you put me on a canoe on the upper Iowa or Turkey River, I'm pretty happy, but I'd say I'd be okay with that, you know, or fortunately turkey season started, so I can sneak out in the woods from time to time. So doesn't take much. Plop me up against a tree in southern Iowa or northeast Iowa, I'm happy, man.
Favorite wrestling style?
You know, freestyle is fun. I mean, I've always enjoyed folk style, and you know, really I wrestled freestyle my freshman year a little bit and qualified for Fargo, but I was always a baseball guy, so I didn't wrestle a lot in the summer. It was fun, but I love folk style.
All right, Coach. When it's your choice, you beat the boys in the wrestling room to select what's going to be playing on the radio that night. What are we going to be listening to?
Country all day. Country music is not a question. If I get my pick in the weight room, country music. You know, how can you lift with this stuff? I'm like, dude, it's an emotional pump, man. Let's go. Get it rocking. Country music.
Oh, love it.
Best quote to live by?
Man, I've had this for a long time, but it's a Stonecutter's quote. I don't know if you guys I'm gonna butcher it, but it's about, you know, when things get tough, I go watch a Stonecutter, and it might be like 99 blows and nothing happens, but the 101st blow, that rock breaks, and it wasn't that blow, but all the blows that went before it. So something along those lines is the Stonecutter. It's been one of my favorites for a long time, and that's just, you know, I love it. Being consistent, being a hammer, being tough as nails, and then
I like it. Do the right thing over and over and over, and good things happen. I like that a lot.
That's right.
Very good. Well, Coach, that's actually the end of our questions. Thank you so much for joining us, man. It's really been awesome talking to you.
No problem. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
We'll definitely be looking forward to whenever we can get everyone back on the mat, and we'll be following North Scott closely. And good luck to you for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with your friends. Give us a like and a follow on Facebook and Twitter at QCA Wrestle. And keep an eye out for more QCA wrestling content coming soon.